A person who functions normally in a sick society is himself sick.
That's what's happened a lot in the gay movement. The oppressed have become the oppressors.
In the late 70s,
in the gay movement, the oppressed have become the oppressors. That's a reference to homonormativity. That's a reference to gays assimilating to the reality of the straights.
Mid-70s, actually, people started coming out of the closet.
Mid-70s.
People who dragged their feet coming out of the closet, came out of the closet and immediately started forming committees. Where they tried to tell the rest of us, who were never in the closet, what we could say and what we could do. Oh, they wanted to be professionally gay. They wanted to be gay. They had meetings where they decided that we couldn't say dyke, we couldn't say fag, we couldn't say queer. Oh, they hated the word queer. Ooh, ooh.
So homonormativity emerged in the 70s. The queers didn't want to assimilate to normative culture, and then the homonormative gays were trying to get the queers to assimilate to homonormative culture in the mid-70s.
Losers, freaks, and deviants started the gay liberation movement, not these fucking control freaks.
The homonormative gays did not start the gay liberation movement. Liberation means to free oneself from capitalism.
We wanted them to go back in the closet. Now, all of a sudden, these same kind of people, now they all want to be queer. Well, they're not queer. Queer means you have no friends. Queer means that you have sustained a period of rejection, isolation, and exclusion so profound that it marks you as an outsider forever. Huh. You know, in the 60s, when we said straight, we never meant heterosexual.
Oh!
We meant
really? Hang on, what did they mean?
Narrow-minded.
We meant narrow-minded. Let's listen to that again.
You know, in the 60s, when we said straight, we never meant heterosexual. We meant narrow-minded. In the gay...
That's funny that she say that. And I was actually going to talk about this earlier, but I'll talk about this now. Mexican! Found this earlier. Check this out. Check this out. This is in Queering Anarchism, which we are going to be reading in our counter-revolutionary book club. And I know this is small print, but let me just read this. Our homonormative society considers it urgent that everyone be labeled a boy or a girl, to the point where it will not shy away from using violence against intersex bodies to apply these labels. For some reason, the vast majority of people identify with a gender label that was applied to them at birth without their consent. The majority of people we call cisgender, the rest of us are transgender, genderqueer, or gender nonconforming. But then again, the vast majority of people seem to be content with going along with most things. After we grow up and we learn all sorts of other roles that stem from the label boy or girl, this label determines everything from what sort of toys we are supposed to play with, to what sort of expectations are to be placed upon us in social situations, to what kind of sexual desires we have. We cannot escape the assumptions. They are everywhere. Daring to transgress these norms can result in violent punishment. These norms and the threats that back them up are all part of straightness. Let me read that little green part, or blue part again. And then we're going to get into some good stuff about this definition of straight. See, I look at all your stuff. You're doing everyone needs to follow him on Twitter. He's doing a great job. We cannot escape these assumptions. They are everywhere. Daring to transgress these norms can result in violent punishment. These norms and the threats that back them up are all part of straightness. Straightness is not an orientation or even really an identity, but a system of social relations. in that regard, straightness is very much like capitalism. Straightness is a multifaceted set of social rules that police our bodies and our minds and our desires and the ways we interact with others. Straightness tells us that people with certain bodies have to be a man and others have to be a woman. It tells us that men have to act in certain ways and that women have to act in other ways. It tells us that we have to have certain kinds of desires and not others. It tells us that we have to fuck certain kinds of people in certain positions for certain reasons. Straightness is a subset of fucking whiteness. Isn't that crazy? So now we have a new slogan. It's not just whiteness means capitalism, it's also straightness means capitalism. And we have exactly the quote we need to back it up because it literally fucking says straightness is very much like capitalism. It was never about identity politics. Identity politics is the trickle-down misunderstanding of progressives and liberals from where the real problem is. Queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Straightness is very much like capitalism. Now let's go back to our documentary. I'll make sure the sound sets up, and let's just listen one more time. One more time.
An outsider forever. Huh. You know, in the 60s when we said straight, we never meant heterosexual. We meant narrow-minded. And the gay world has gotten to be a straighter and straighter and straighter place.
Excuse me, what? The gay world has gotten to be a straighter and straighter and straighter place? Because straight means narrow-minded, which some might say means conform to the norms that uphold capitalism?
And I don't have any preparation or any inclination to live in a completely straight world.